Hello, it's the rest day on the Tour after 9 pretty intense days of racing, 6 of them since we last saw you on ITV1. So before we get stuck into the action, let's remind ourselves where we left the race last Monday night. Well, CSC's David Zabriskie was in the yellow jersey, having surprised everybody with his debut Tour ride in the opening time trial. He was the only man faster than Lance Armstrong by 2 seconds, while Armstrong was over a minute up on Jan Ullrich, having humiliated his chief rival by overtaking him in the space of 19 kilometres. Stage 2 was for the sprinters, and Tom Boonen took it with time to think about his celebration for the Super Slow-Mo. Stage 3 was a bit tighter, not for Boonen, who won it again, but behind him, where Robbie McEwen was going helmet to cheekbone with Stuart O'Grady and getting himself disqualified in the process. The sprinting was spectacular as usual, but it changed nothing at the top. Zabriskie's lead over Armstrong, the same 2 seconds by which he was faster in the individual time trial. Now the two of them are about to go at it with their teams for company.
Once you dig in, you'll find it coming out the other side. And once you dig in, you'll find you have yourself a good time.
There's no other sport in the world where individual success depends on group sacrifice the way it does in cycling. But the daily grind of teamwork is usually lost in a swarm of jerseys, as each squad does its chores alongside the domestic staff of 20 other teams. The team time trial, though, makes it all crystal clear. Like families of non-uplets, each dressed in identical outfits by their mother, the teams power around the course in formation, and the time is taken on the 5th man over the line. So this is where a team leader really relies on the depth of quality in his lineup. Today's team time trial course, stage 4 of the Tour, is 67 kilometres through the Loire Valley, then over the Loire itself here just before the finish at Blois. And it's a very tricky finish to negotiate as a 9-man team. The medieval street plan here is tight and twisty, and Lance Armstrong will know better than anyone what can go wrong in team time trials.
And there's a crash in the postal team. There's a touch of wheels. 2 riders are down here on the floor. One of them is Van der Velde, I think. The right-hand side of the picture, I'm not sure whether the other one is Tyler Hamilton, but 2 riders are down.
That was the 2001 team time trial, but Armstrong's squad has won this event in the last 2 tours, and most people think this year's supporting cast is the strongest he's ever had.
You throw in the guys we've had around, Tricky, Chechu, who I think are better than they were last year. Acevedo is at least as good as he was last year. George, look at the way he rode in the Dauphiné. Clearly he's better than he was a year ago. So, I mean, the team is... I'm not worried about this team defending the jersey. I might be a little worried about the leader getting the jersey, but no, they know how to do their job.
Well, there's the route, Tour to Blois, and over the 67-kilometre course, Liberty Seguros set the best early time, coming in with 1 hour, 11 minutes and 32 seconds. But with all the teams out on the road as we join the stage, CSC are fastest through the second time check at 46 kilometres, 6 seconds better than Discovery, and 7 seconds up on T-Mobile, who are powering towards the finish.
Here comes Jan Ullrich driving the train towards the line. As they head up now, they will be better than Liberty Seguros. Then it's down to the others to match the pace. This is a big demonstration by T-Mobile because they were devastated after the individual time trial. But now they are going to tell us they are back. Alexander Vinokourov is also coming up towards the finishing time now. This is going to be a fantastic time, Paul. Take it in.
Well, they're pulling themselves up to the finish line. Jan Ullrich must have done some massive turns out there in the road, because there you can see Ullrich has switched off. That's Guerini not too far away. Vinokourov is very happy with his time. He's taken up 6th place there, but the time they're looking to beat is the time of Liberty Seguros. It's going to be very close indeed. 1:11:32 is the time to beat, but 1:11:15 is the time of T-Mobile. So T-Mobile, the team of Jan Ullrich, and look at that, a little clip of the hands as they go #1 slot.
Well, I'm just looking here at CSC. They look as good as Discovery Channel today, I have to say, Paul. This is going to go right down to the line. T-Mobile have done their job at every check so far.
They certainly have, and T-Mobile have got the best time with 6 kilometers to go. 20 seconds faster than Liberty Seguros and 51 seconds faster than Team Phonak.
Phonak then, who really we thought would have been a top 3 team on the day, should get in top 3 team at the moment, but they will slip away as the teams Discovery and CSC come to the line. Here they come though. Floyd Landis, his face twisted in pain, hits the line. 3rd best so far for Phonak.
They've lost their first man here. This could be a sign. This is Giovanni Lombardi. He is the team sprinter, so not surprisingly, he's the first man to get popped off the back here of Team CSC. But over the final few kilometers, a man down can be a serious handicap.
Now, will they be all smiles like we've seen the past 2 years? There is Lance. There's the time to 56.86 kilometers an hour by T-Mobile, and this is going to be even quicker than that. Lance is going to lead this Tour de France into retirement, having led his team to the fastest ever time trial in the history of the event. Here they come now, driving up to the line. Wait for the smile. What determination. 1:10.4, 57.31 kilometers an hour.
And at the 6 to go sign, Team CSC still had a 2-second advantage on Discovery Channels.
That's the difference with Lance Armstrong and his fellow countryman Dave Zabriskie. How ironic is that? Because if it were to finish right now, he would have doubled his lead.
Now, I just see there, Phil, the sign which says 2 kilometers to go. Team CSC have got to get to the finish in 2 minutes. 2 minutes they have to ride right now at 60 kilometers an hour. And with the corners, I don't think that's possible.
Well, Paul, look, number 21 is the leader of the team in the weeks ahead. That's Ivan Basso. It looks to me as though he's sitting at the back now. He's not so sure he can drive this group anymore. But the boy in yellow, Zabriskie, is itching to get through. He's such a strong man. This is very difficult through here now as we go through the S's and they approach the line. Remember, 2 seconds is the margin.
2 seconds is the margin. And the yellow jersey's down.
What has happened? He's overshot the bend. Total disaster. The yellow jersey has hit the bend. Well, that is it.
That is it, because he is no longer with the team. His teammate just behind him managed to get around him, but Dave Zabriskie has gone down very hard. He will not now be able to finish with the team. He will not get the same time as the team. So win or lose by Team CSC, he has lost the yellow jersey with that horrible crash at 1.5 kilometers to go.
And it was heavy. Look at his shorts, his jersey, the maillot jaune is sullied. There's no 1 kilometer rule in a time trial. He will lose the time. It's a long way up this home straight at 1:10.39. They drive on now. Team CSC heading up towards the line. 39 is the time of Team Discovery Channel. It's still a little way to go. They may be just outside it. They've got 10 seconds to get up this straight. It is a long way. It is a vicious sprint, but I think they'll be the wrong side of 39 anyway. But it doesn't matter because the yellow jersey has passed to Lance Armstrong. They hit the line. The 2-second margin continues to haunt them. 1:10.41. It's the wrong way anyway. He would have lost it, but now he is going to slip out of the top 10 probably.
Phil, that is the most unbelievable team time trial I think I have ever witnessed in my life.
So poor David Zabriskie, the consolation, if there is one, he would have lost his lead anyway, but what we would have had was Lance Armstrong and Zabriskie equal first in the Tour de France. How incredible is that? As it is, it doesn't matter because he's coming home in his own time, losing time, and that welt on the side of his thigh is beginning to look rather ugly. Dave Zabriskie, don't feel ashamed because you almost did it. But at this time, I'm afraid the master has played the master stroke. Armstrong is back in the maillot jaune of the Tour de France.
After the slow, painful ride to the finish, David Zabriskie had the slow, painful one past the press to his team car. The stage result would have done nothing to improve his mood. Even with the crash, CSC lost only 2 seconds to Discovery. If anyone but Zabriskie had gone down, that would have been enough to hold on to the race lead. T-Mobile make up the top 3 on the stage. But it's Armstrong's squad that gets on the podium for the 3rd year running, twice as US Postal, once as Discovery. And as usual, the team time trial produces wholesale changes at the top. 4 Discovery riders in the top 6, including Armstrong, now installed as race leader. Alexander Vinokourov is 7th, David Zabriskie down to 9th on the same time as his leader Ivan Basso, with Jan Ullrich 14th. Well, we said he knew the impact a crash could have on the team time trial, but Lance surely didn't think before the stage that it would take one to put him into the race lead.
The yellow jersey, close though, 2 seconds.
Close, I know. We were trying to watch the race in the bus. Our TV was in and out, and we were just everybody on pins and needles looking at the clock. And we knew it was going to be close because the wind was so favorable today that difficult to make a selection, difficult to get big time differences. And CSC was strong, so tough to beat them.
Tough for David Zabriskie too. To crash in the yellow jersey is bad enough. To do it within 1,300 metres of the finish after a storming team time trial ride must double the misery. And Zabriskie seemed no wiser than anyone else as to what caused it.
I don't know what happened. Maybe the chain slipped off, or it just happened so fast and I can't see a good angle on TV. It's just 1 second happens.
Well, his manager doesn't know. He doesn't seem to know himself. Chris Boardman, I mean, the shot's not very good, is it, from behind? But what do you make of Dave Zabriskie's crash?
I think after we'd seen it a couple of times, it was good enough. There was basically 2 things that could have happened. He's either pulled his foot out or his chains come off, because we could see he had all his weight on the crank and suddenly lost any kind of resistance and he just went straight down. And you know what it's like to crash out in the yellow jersey. You've crashed out of the whole race. He's just crashed out of the race lead, but still he must be feeling pretty bad. Oh, to get so close, literally within sight of the finish line, to have it all snatched away, it's going to probably take a couple of days for him to get over that. So Lance Armstrong is in the yellow jersey for the first time in his final tour. After the break, we're going to be back in sprinters territory though. Stage 5 from Chambord to Montargis.
Hi, I'm Stuart O'Grady, and more from the Tour de France after the break.
For stage 5, the race is back in its normal configuration after the team time trial, which means we're most likely in for a bunch sprint at the finish. Tom Boonen is looking for his 3rd win out of 3. Robbie McEwen is just looking for sympathy. When the Australian sprinter was disqualified on stage 3 for headbutting Stuart O'Grady, the commissaires told him that he had no right of appeal. Well, he's lodged one anyway with the Court of Public Opinion. The video evidence looks pretty damning for Robbie, but when we caught up with him at the team time trial, he insisted that we'd been looking at the evidence the wrong way, or just looking at the wrong bits of it.
You've got to know what you're looking for. You don't have to look at the head movements, because they were a direct result of the first elbow that came from O'Grady. So, I was just reacting to what came from another rider, and I've been penalised for that. So it's, I'm 100% positive it's a wrong decision, and I've been ripped off.
Well, make of that what you will, and if you can make any sense of it, good luck to you. What we can say is that stage 5, 183 kilometres from Chambord to Montargis, is flat and tailor-made for Robbie to try to make his point on the road, where he's a bit more persuasive. We pick it up heading into Montargis, and it's looking like a bunch finish.
They're absolutely flying through here. We're gently downhill, but they're safe at the moment. Now, anybody who doesn't want to get involved better get out of this one, because we're heading into the narrow streets. There's a cobbled section as we head up to the kite. There's the kite, 1 kilometre to go.
Matty White has swung off. There he is on the right-hand side. Job done for the day. He's looking to see whether Stewie O'Grady's going to come up with the goods. It's Bradley McGee on the front. This is what he wants to do. Cookie's up there into 3rd place, but so too is the green jersey. And there is Tor Hussoff, the Crédit Agricole rider, over on the left-hand side. And still, Phil, I cannot see Robbie McEwen. This is the corner we're talking about.
And they made it safely, much to my amazement. They have turned up now. It's an uphill finish. And Baden Cook has got himself right in the place here. Armstrong safe in that back. Watch out for the 3rd wheel, the 3rd man in white. Baden Cook is now 2nd. Here comes the lead out for Tom Boonen. While Cookie hasn't got it, Boonen is tucked over to our left, and he's got the man on his wheel there from Australia. McEwen is behind. This is still the lead out, but it's going to be now for Isa. But here comes the lead out for Boonen. Boonen goes. McEwen chases him down, and now the green jersey again has hit the front. O'Grady is out of it. Here comes McEwen. He's got the legs this time. Robbie McEwen is forced to the line and takes it. That's revenge for you.
Oh, look at that salute by Robbie McEwen. That was not to the crowd. That was to the referees to say, guys, I can win these sprints. That was great revenge for Robbie McEwen. McEwen after being relegated from third place in their stage into Tours. And what a sprint by Robbie McEwen. We did say, Phil, before the start that he would enjoy that little corner at 500 metres to go.
This is when weight perhaps isn't so much, but it was uphill, but this guy can guide himself through a minefield, and he's done that. Look at the face behind on Stuart O'Grady as well. Boy, McEwen does send them at us sometimes, and this was one of his best. Yes, we know, Robbie. It was pretty good, wasn't it?
I think he's enjoyed that. Hello, thank you very much. This goes to prove that I am one of the top sprinters on the block. But let's look at it from the air. Well, just having a quick look at there, Tom Boonen has got a nice clear shot at the finish line, but this is the kind of sprint which is slightly uphill. You have to wait right down to the last possible moment. Boonen looked as if he had the power, but Robbie McEwen has got the kick. McEwen just wanted to get this victory. Boonen gets himself second, and Hushovd gets himself third place.
What was the celebration all about?
It was a bit of a double celebration, just to say I'm the fastest one here today, and my team is the one that did all the work to provide me with this opportunity.
Vindication for Robbie McEwen as he does Tom Boonen out of a hat-trick. Tor Hushovd taking third place for the second time in 3 bunch sprints. Now, Robbie says stage wins are all he's interested in from here on, and as you can see, even this stage win leaves him no higher than 4th in the green jersey competition. In the overall standings, the result changes nothing. Lance Armstrong still leads, and the nearest non-teammate is Jens Voigt of CSC, 1 minute 4 seconds back. The closest T-Mobile man is Alexander Vinokourov in 7th. Dave Zabriskie, nursing his road rash through the stage, is 9th, just ahead of his team leader Ivan Basso, and Jan Ullrich remains 14th. Historic Stanislas Square in Nancy, the setting for stage 6, but beautiful old French towns and high-speed bunch sprints aren't necessarily a happy combination, especially in the rain. And the final corner of the run-in came with a warning in the rider's road book. As we join the action, local boy Christophe Mangin is on the verge of the Tour's first successful solo breakaway, powering into Nancy, with the pack piling it on to try to pull him in.
He is going to come up now to the last couple of kilometres, and he's going to still hold a very, very slight lead.
These long kilometres right now will not be good for Christophe Mangin, because the main field will be able to judge the distance they are behind him. But it seems as if there is no organisation now by the sprinters. It's all over. And this is Alexander Vinokourov is going for it.
That's a crafty little move by a man who could win the Tour de France. He's tried to liven it all up here for the T-Mobile squad. Remember, they're going home in the next couple of days. They're a German-sponsored team at 1.3 miles to go. We are now at 2 kilometres from the finish. Vinokourov has taken it up.
And he's still got 10 seconds lead. You can see the darkness in the back there. That is the main field. They're charging through the streets of Nancy. They're less than 50 metres, and Alexander Vinokourov, Phil, is getting himself halfway across the gap. I'm not sure who he's trying to lead out for T-Mobile, but there it is. He's got the gap. He's got the gap over the front end of the main field. Clever rider.
Oh, well, this is such a typical move by Vinokourov. Looking from the helicopter now, the first picture there we can see he's going to hit the kilometre probably ahead, and then Vinokourov is going to join in. There's more help on the way. The peloton have not got a hold of this race yet.
I hope he doesn't hesitate like he did on the final stage of Paris-Nice. As soon as he catches Mangin, he has to go straight over the top. Otherwise, he's going to get caught up by the acceleration of the sprinters.
Well, somewhere above us, we will see 1 kilometre to go. Christophe Mangin has seen the 2 riders catch him now. He will have to take a deep breath and try and work with them. There's the kilometre kite. There are now 3 riders. What a dramatic finish this is. Oh, and he's gone. He's overshot. Vinokourov skids and misses him. There's another crash, a massive pile-up on that bend, and that is going to give the victory to the breakaway. They just lost their concentration here. But it looks as though Armstrong again on the late crash has gone through on the inside with all the skills. I'm trying to nail this rider, Paul, but it looks like a rider. Is it from Fassa Bortolo? It is. It's not Fabian Cancellara, I don't think, but it's a big rider. It could be Kim Kirken, this of Luxembourg, who's clear. We pull back from the shadows of the arch on Stanislas Square, and now the rate there, and there is Robbie McEwen. He's down, picking up the bits, and there is the fallen Christophe Mangin. What the way to end the day here. As we need to cut back to the beginning here. He looks okay, a little bit stunned. Gerard Port, the doctor, is there as well. This rider, whoever he is about to win the stage. Vinokourov skidded, missed the crash, and he's coming again. The champion of Kazakhstan, and the legs on that big man, I've got a feeling it might be Kim Kirken. That's who we're going for. He has got the victory on the line. It's not Kim Kirken, but he's got the victory on the line, and Vinokourov gets a second, and the rider who's won is Lorenzo Bernucci of Italy.
Well, that was an unbelievably timed move by Bernucci coming across there. It really was an incredible move as well. There is Lance Armstrong, but I think, Phil, if we look back at the results, the referees will give everybody there the same time. Armstrong in that group, not showing any emotion at all on his face. That crash was well inside the last kilometre of racing, well inside the last 3 kilometres of racing. So I feel sure that the judges will give everybody here the same time.
Right, let's have a look at the stage result. Lorenzo Bernucci takes his first ever win in the Tour de France, just ahead of Alexander Vinokourov. But more interesting is the gap from Vinokourov back to the rest of the field. 7 seconds on his team leader Jan Ullrich, who came in 19th. Lance Armstrong was 32nd, and Ivan Basso 75th. Add in the 12-second time bonus Vinokourov picked up for second place, and he took 19 seconds off the other big names. The more immediate glory, though, to Bernucci, 25 years old, in second place in a stage of the Tour of Switzerland, his best result prior to this one. And here's an insight into the priorities of your average rider. With men on the ground all around him, no sooner has Bernucci's fellow Fassa Bortolo rider Fabian Cancellara steadied himself at the back of the crash, and he's on the radio shouting encouragement to his colleague up the home straight. The man who started the pile-up, Christophe Mongean, eventually rolled in 128th, with nothing to show for his efforts except the beginnings of a beautiful black eye. With all due kudos to Lorenzo Bernucci, the big news of the stage was its effect on the overall standings, and Vinokourov's sheer nerve has moved him up into third, just behind George Hincapie. 1 minute and 2 seconds behind Armstrong instead of the 1 minute 21 he was before the stage. Jan Ullrich finished in a group ahead of Armstrong, but because the split was caused by a crash inside the last 3 kilometres, he got the same time, so his deficit doesn't change. Still comfortably in yellow then Armstrong, but perhaps a bit less comfortable than he was at the start of the day, because Vinokourov's unpredictability is the one thing that Discovery's meticulous team machine can't factor into its calculations.
Do you think he's the main man at T-Mobile now? Because Jan Ullrich was saying before the Tour, you're never going to know who's the captain.
Is that important? I mean, we have to ride our race, you know, and not to sound like a snob, but I mean, we had to prepare ourselves to get here, and now we have a strategy and we have a great team behind us, and we're going to ride our race, and ultimately if you know, the secret leader comes along from another team and beats us, then we lose. But I think right now we're happy with what we have.
Stage 7 takes the Tour into Germany, and a German rider had the distinction of being first across the border, Fabian Wegmann of Gerolsteiner. But he was swept up long before the finish in Karlsruhe, and as we join the race, the whole field is together.
2 lines now. Liquigas over on the left-hand side. You could see Francis de Jeux were losing the line, so they're smoothing across into the middle of the road. Still, Bradley McGee is waiting for the last moment. He's the kind of rider who's got a great leader. But look at Boonen right up there, moving up through the middle onto the tail there of Jan Kirsipuu in the black, blue and white jersey. The champion of Estonia's got Thor Hushovd right on his wheel.
Boonen rides at this minute in 12th position in this pack from the helicopter. The Liquigas boys still feel the confidence in Pagliarini because they've got to control the front of the bunch. Toe 2 for Thor Hushovd here. Off to the left is Bradley McGee now, and locked on his wheel is Baden Cook. That's the big Australian double. That's McGee in the white. McCook is behind him at second and third to those boys. This is going to be one terrific rush for the line. Robert Foster's trying to get in for Gerolsteiner now. Thor Hushovd is moving up as they start to fan across the road. They're looking for 1 kilometre to go.
They're still looking. In fact, they've come inside. There's 500 metres to go. We've gone bowling past the 1 kilometre sign. McGee has got Cookie on his wheel, but there's a big launch coming from Kirsipuu in the middle and Thor Hushovd.
Yes, that is Hushovd on the right there, but he's checked himself, and this is a brilliant lead out by Bradley McGee. McGee has now got Baden Cook. He launches Cook at the finishing line as Cook now makes the run for the line. On the rails there's been a crash, and in fact Furlong has gone on the left, and look at McEwen through on the inside. Magnus Backstedt's got his wheel. Here comes Magnus Backstedt to the line now. I think McEwen's held him off. McEwen on the line thinks he's got it, that for sure. The big surprise there, absolutely no sign in the top 5 of Tom Boonen. He was out of that today, but there was a nasty crash there. I know Furlan was involved, but there was 2 riders went, and as they come through here, well, Robin McEwen didn't cause that. There's the crash. That is Galvez, in fact, being treated by Gerard Porte. He looks totally disgusted, laying the bike down, walking away. Looks quite cool, actually. And this is the other bike, and look at this. Furlan is not happy, blaming Galvez. Galvez doesn't want to know about it. Let's have a look at the sprint. Look at this now, and there's no doubt about it. McEwen has got it, but that is a great sprint by Magnus Backstedt. Big Maggie is back in the big time with that sprint finish. There's no doubt of that.
There's confirmation of the result, and it needs confirming on this stage because that was not an easy sprint to follow. Robin McEwen took it though, ahead of Liquigas Bianchi's Magnus Backstedt and Bernhard Eisel of Française des Jeux. Behind the main action, the commissaires were examining the replays of that crash in the home straight though, and so was Chris Boardman.
Well, we circled Alan Davis for you here. You can see he's desperately trying to find a way out. He moves right and I think inadvertently takes out Galvez and Furlan. Well, the judges didn't agree. They decided it was out of order and relegated him to 173rd position.
Bonan 2, McEwen 2, all square in stage victories between Belgium and Australia. So at the end of 7 stages, Lance Armstrong will be carrying the yellow jersey up the first climb of the Tour worth the name. And the name is the Col de la Schlucht. Stage 8 coming up after the break.
Hello, my name is Fabian Wegmann, and you can see more from the Tour after the break.
Oh, who I think will win the Tour de France?
Lance Armstrong.
Lance Armstrong.
Armstrong. Lance Armstrong will win the 2005 Tour.
Lance Armstrong.
Lance Armstrong.
Yeah, I won't lie, Lance Armstrong.
Lance Armstrong.
Armstrong.
How could you not pick him to win it?
Jan Ullrich.
With the Tour heading back into France for stage 8, about the only major rider loyally picking Jan Ullrich to win this race is the one who looks best placed to take over from him as Lance Armstrong's chief rival. Alexander Vinokourov is the one man who's had the nerve to attack Armstrong so far, and as a result, he's currently lying third, 1 minute and 2 seconds behind the race leader and 34 seconds ahead of his own team leader. Jan Ullrich is in 13th place, 1:36 behind Armstrong, and 10 seconds behind Ivan Basso, who's lying in 9th. Well, the stage 8 route provides some opportunities for Armstrong's challengers to attack, especially towards the finish, where there's a second category climb 15 kilometres from the line, and that could set up a furious downhill finish into Gérard May. In fact, it looks similar to stage 9 in 2003, where Vinokourov picked up almost a minute on Armstrong and the rest of the field in one of a series of attacks he launched the last time he rode the Tour.
Just look at this now. This is such a typical move by Alexander Vinokourov, and he's free to fly. Vinokourov coming up the home straight. It's been another great battle, another late attack, and he's got time back on Armstrong. He's winning. Here he goes again. Vinokourov just will not lay down today. And the man from Kazakhstan, well, he really does bring the Tour de France to light. He's at it again. Here he goes. Go get him, Alex. You know, I think the one man Armstrong really fears is Vinokourov, and there he is, right in his slipstream.
Well, the first successful attack of the day came from Peter Veining, a Dutchman on the Rabobank team. As we join the action, he has a lead of 1 minute 37 on the main field, with 4 kilometres to go to the top of the Col de la Schlucht, and another 16 down the other side to the finish.
Vinokourov, the little terror, is in 3rd place. He is looking for the move now. This could be where he is planning an attack. And look at Lance. Lance Armstrong is not going to let him out of his sight this time. Vinokourov, the acceleration has forced Armstrong to come out and play.
Well, that's Salvadelli trying to nail down the gap. Armstrong not panicking, but Vinokourov true to his word. He really is the dark invader, isn't he? He's looking to try and see if there's any weakness in Armstrong's armour.
What a super bike rider. He's always taking the race to himself, and haunting him just behind there is also Jan Ullrich. Here comes an attack now from Christophe Moreau. They may not chase him with such enthusiasm.
Well, they're not too worried about Christophe Moreau as he goes inside of the 20 kilometre to go banner, because he's a man who... Now, another move here by Alexander Vinokourov. He's going again.
Just what he wants, somebody else to draw the sting, and he's gone. And this time, no. Forget it. This time Lance has reacted like last time.
This time it's Armstrong himself in person chasing everybody down, and look at that, they've caught the group of 3 riders who are halfway across the gap, and I tell you what, it looks as if there's a little bit of daylight there in between Alexander Vinokourov and Lance Armstrong. He's taking his time to pull this one back.
Well, one Antonio Fletcher has had the legs to try and join in there as he's jumped onto the back. The others have gone off. but Christophe Moreau joined by Alexander Vinokourov. What a great bike racer he really is. He's not going to take defeat lying down at all. Armstrong is very, very wise there. He may have lost 19 seconds on the road to Nancy, but he's going to mark that boy now.
Yeah, but Big Jan is there as well. He's right on the tail of Lance Armstrong. You can just see the pink jersey moving up. He's being very attentive, trying to lighten his load as much as possible, throwing out the sandbags here.
That is amazing, isn't it?
Now this is Andreas Kloden. Who would have believed that?
Well, I certainly wouldn't have believed it, because he was riding so badly in the Dauphiné Libéré, and this has got to be a tentative. I can't believe his form has become from nothing to absolutely magnificent in 12 days. But at the moment, Kloden has found his legs, and up comes the reaction. And the rider from Rabobank there is Denis Menchov, who's gone forward as well.
Well, Kloden a fair way down in the overall standings, almost 2.5 minutes behind Lance Armstrong. He started the day in 24th. We talked about the triptych, the trio of riders who could attack, and Armstrong now being attacked by Basso. Everybody seems to want to go up the road.
Basso has gone. Armstrong is watching them sprint around. He's still sitting by Jan Ullrich. I'm not sure he's getting such a good idea now. Ullrich is going to have to catch up as well. This is an amazing showdown. I never expected this on the climb today.
You know, this is the only way they're going to beat Lance Armstrong, to launch attack after attack, just keep going. But he's actually pretty cool here. He said, right, Big Jan wants to win this Tour de France as well. I'll just sit on his wheel and see where he's going to go.
Well, this has to be a surprise. I'm not sure Lance will have written this one into his calculations, in all honesty. This is a big moment in this rider's young life. It's probably a big moment in that chap's young life too. As we now look at Kloden, second on the mountain, heading up towards the summit.
And he looks good. His pedaling style is smooth. He looks comfortable on the machine. All he's going to face himself up to now is a very rapid descent. A bit of confusion at the front there. All the motorbikes want to get the first shot they've had of this man there so far this season, because he's never really been at the front end of the main field anywhere, apart from the stage of the Bayern Munich Rundfahrt.
Look at this man. His tongue locked into the right-hand side of his mouth there, concentrating, eyes just staring at the summit and giving himself a feeling they are drawing me in. Kloden has gone. He's going to try and out-sprint him. He didn't know he was coming, and he's going to really kick himself for that, because look at that, 10 meters from the line. Kloden is over first. The two riders over the top together. Now it's full bore down to Gerard Mer.
Well, I tell you what, their advantage is not very much over the top of the climb. Race radio just crackled through and gave confirmation that the lead of those two riders was only 15 seconds, and that is not very much.
Well, the attacks petered out after Kloden left the Armstrong group behind to chase down Veining, and as the pair of them approached the 1 kilometre banner, it looks like Germany against the Netherlands for the stage win.
Well, this is a skillful tactic by the rider from Holland. He's learnt an awful lot in just a week in his first Tour de France. He stopped working with the leader. He's going to just wait and take the risk of them catching up. Kloden is racing for time. He's thinking of the future in the Tour de France. Wienen is thinking of about 800 metres in the Tour de France. And that will be his first ever stage win. And I'll take my hat off to Kloden. He's not made any effort to force the other rider through.
No, he knows that what he's got to do is ride for time. It's so important for him this afternoon. He's going to move himself up. It's 30 seconds back to the main group. So it's one of these two riders is going to win the stage.
They've got it. Now Wienen is obviously going to come out of the slipstream. He'll be the fresher of the two. He made the move right at the base of the Col de la Schlucht, and he stayed away until Kloden stole the prize off him 10 metres from the top. And now he's forced the German rider to open up the sprint. He's going to have to wait. Oh, has he got it? Look at the look in his eye. He's got this. He'll move round him at the very last minute. Which side's he going to go? Now here he comes. His first ever victory in his first ever... Oh, did he get it, Paul? I don't know.
Well, that's a photo, Phil. That is a photo. Side by side, those riders were as they came across the line, and I don't think either of them knew who got the win.
Jörg Jansk on the far right of our picture here. Cadel Evans on the far left in the red jersey. Vinokourov is looking for a time bonus. There's a third-place time bonus at stake as he starts to come out and attack. Here, Christophe Moreau comes on the right, Valverde, and also Jens Voigt, and he's been washed away, Vinokourov. I think it's going to be Valverde who gets third on the line, and a very small time bonus.
Well, the judges on the line did eventually confirm Peter Veining as the winner, but looking at the photo, it's not entirely clear how. Ned Boulting went in search of clarification.
here is the equipment that determined who was the winner, and this is the man who operated the equipment. Bruno, how did you work out who won that stage?
Okay, just let me show you on the screen. Okay, so you just have to zoom in between the two riders. So here's the first wheel, and
that's Weining's wheel?
Yeah, sure. And you can see there is 1 pixel between the two riders. So there is less than 1,000 of seconds between the two riders.
And there it is spelled out. Peter Weining gets his first ever Tour win ahead of Andreas Kloeden. The pair of them finishing 27 seconds ahead of the chasing bunch, led in by Alejandro Valverde, with Jens Voigt 5th and Jan Ullrich 6th. Behind them, Vinokourov, Armstrong and Basso were all in the same group of 31 riders. None of the big names, of course, was interested in chasing Peter Weining, but kudos to him nonetheless for getting in the right break and having the legs to ride away from it.
Peter, your first professional win, your first Tour de France. What sort of a feeling is that?
What about the feeling? Yeah, it's a really special feeling, of course. Yeah, I was fighting the whole day for it, and I win it. It's unbelievable.
Now, the big question of Stage 8 is where were Lance Armstrong's teammates? And if you're him, the answer's not very encouraging. The top-placed Discovery rider was the youngest, Jaroslav Popovic, in a group that lost 1 minute 25. He was alongside Jose Acevedo and George Hincapie. The other 5, including the winner of this year's Giro d'Italia, Paolo Savoldelli, lost nearly 3 minutes on what was barely a warm-up for the real mountains. Well, he looked happy enough on the podium, but I suspect the smile will last as long as it takes him to escape the last camera and get on the team bus to start the inquest. Because although the time gaps are mostly unchanged, the top of the overall standings suddenly looks much more like a real race and less like a lap of honour for him. There are 3 CSC riders in the top 6, Jens Voigt, Bobby Julich and Ivan Basso, and there are 2 T-Mobiles, Vinokourov, who remains 3rd, and Jan Ullrich, who's up to 6th. Behind them, Andreas Kloeden, who had a disastrous opening time trial, has ridden himself into the top 10 and confirmed that T-Mobile have a 3rd weapon to employ against the defending champion.
What's wrong with the team?
That's a great question. I don't know. I mean, perhaps we've been a little too active in the race, worked a little too much. Maybe the guys are tired. I can't really comment without actually sitting down with them and saying, what's wrong with you? How did you feel? I mean, what's the problem? Were you, was it your breathing? Was it your legs? Was it the rhythm? Was it the climb? It's a strange climb too, you know, to start. I mean, it's a long climb, but not very steep, so you're able to keep 30, 40, 50 guys there, and they can take shots at you from the back, and it's hard to follow those.
Well, you have to take Lance Armstrong at his word, and the word doesn't sound very encouraging as far as his support goes.
No, he looked like a man who was rattled to me, for sure. That is not what you would want. He can be completely isolated. At the top of a 2nd category climb, too, I would say. I can see no tactical advantage to that, so not a good day for Lance.
4 CSC riders in the top 10 now, 3 T-Mobile riders. They're all starting to mass around Lance Armstrong. We'll take a break, and we'll be back with more climbing on Stage 9.
Hi, I'm Peter Weining. There will be more after the break of the Tour de France.
On Stage 8, on a moderate 2nd category climb in the Vosges Mountains, Lance Armstrong was more isolated than he's ever been on the giant slopes of the Alps or the Pyrenees. On Stage 9, the mountains are 1 grade tougher. If his rivals are as strong and his team as weak once again, he could be in big trouble. And there's the Stage 9 battleground, 171 kilometres from Gérardmer to Mulhouse, with 6 climbs, including the Grand Ballon and the Ballon d'Alsace. There was bad news for T-Mobile early in the stage when Jan Ullrich came off on the first descent and had to be paced back into the race by 4 teammates. But the news was even worse for David Zabriskie, the first yellow jersey wearer of this year's race, finally succumbing to the injuries he sustained in that crash during the team time trial on Stage 4. Rabobank's Danish rider Michael Rasmussen, who started the stage in the King of the Mountains jersey, attacked almost from the flag and took all 6 summits with little or no company. Behind him, Jens Voigt, a minute behind Armstrong, remember, in 2nd place at the start of the stage, set off on an attack of his own and was joined by Christophe Moreau. At the front of the main field, the Discovery Outriders were back in formation. The show of strength was largely ceremonial, as they showed no real interest in wasting undue energy on either Rasmussen or Voigt. So as we join the race, Rasmussen is homing in on a superb solo stage win.
It has been an exhibition of terrific bike riding over all of the mountains of this region in first place. He won all the prizes along the route except one small prize. He gave that to the rider who dared to join him for a short distance, and then he dispatched him back to the field. It's a little bit of a lonely ride, but he should start to feel good pretty much now, as this massive crowd in Mulhouse cheer him all the way home.
It's a corridor of noise that this rider is going through, urging him up to the finishing line. They realise how brave this man has been here this afternoon. They realise what an effort he's had to put in to survive off the front on a very difficult day through the Vosges.
For nearly 4.5 hours they've watched him on the television at the finishing line. Now they can see him in person as he salutes the crowd. He gets his first ever stage win. He could not have imagined that was the way it was going to be when he left around midday today from the town of Jaromir.
Well, now we have to wait for Jens Voigt to come in with his compatriot for the afternoon, Christophe Moreau. And I've just cast my mind back and forgotten that for many, many years, Moreau and Voigt rode for the same Crédit Agricole team.
We drive up to the finishing line now. I don't think Jens is going to even try to go by him as they come to the line. Christophe Moreau, the Frenchman, has certainly found his old form again. They used to be teammates, as Paul has said. They're now rivals, but I think today they're teammates again. As they come up to the line, 3 minutes has passed by on the clock, and Christophe Moreau takes second. Voigt is third. The clocks have started now. Let's wait for Armstrong.
The main field are being led home still by Discovery Channel. We mustn't forget that the winner of the stage is Michael Rasmussen. Second place on the stage going to Christophe Moreau. Third place going to Jens Voigt. And Jens Voigt, I think right now, has done just enough to be the new yellow jersey here at the Tour de France.
Well, Voigt has done most things in his cycling career, but we love him. That was a great ride by Jens. Now he's got to wait. These are nervous moments, of course, to see just if he is the next Maillot Jaune of the Tour de France.
This is the big lead out. This is David Moncoutier on the front, taking over the pacemaking now. It's Cedric Vasseur up into third place is Stewie O'Grady. He wants this 4 points for this place here. His fourth place here at the end of the stage is going to move him very close to the top end of the green jersey race. He's there looking over his shoulder. There are not very many top sprinters in this group as Stewie O'Grady is lined up. It's still Cedric Vasseur all over the machine. O'Grady's waiting. There's a challenge coming from Leaky Gas up through the middle there, but O'Grady's still waiting. He's an experienced track rider when it comes down to sprinting at the end of a race like this, and he wants to make sure he gets himself maximum points. Here's the explosion coming down the right-hand side. The Aussie's going for it. O'Grady's trying to get himself fourth place on the stage. It's going to be so important.
Tour de Blois, and over the 67-kilometre course, Liberty Seguros set the best early time, coming in with 1 hour, 11 minutes and 32 seconds. But with all the teams out on the road as we join the stage, CSC are fastest through the second time check at 46 kilometres. 6 seconds better than Discovery, and 7 seconds up on T-Mobile, who are powering towards the finish.
Here comes Jan Ullrich driving the train towards the line. As they head up now, they will be better than Liberty Seguros. Then it's down to the others to match the pace. This is a big demonstration by T-Mobile because they were devastated after the individual time trial. But now they are going to tell us they are back. Alexander Vinokourov is also coming up towards the finishing time now. This is going to be a fantastic time, Paul. Take it in.
Well, they're pulling themselves up to the finish line. Jan Ullrich must have done some massive turns out there in the road, because there you can see Ullrich has switched off. That's Guerini not too far away. Vinokourov is very happy with his time. He's taken up 6th place there, but the time they're looking to beat is the time of Liberty Seguros. It's
67 kilometres through the Loire Valley, then over the Loire itself here just before the finish at Blois. And it's a very tricky finish to negotiate as a 9-man team. The medieval street plan here is tight and twisty, and Lance Armstrong will know better than anyone what can go wrong in team time trials.
And there's a crash in the postal team. There's a touch of wheels. 2 riders are down here on the floor. One of them is Van der Velde, I think. The right-hand side of the picture, I'm not sure whether the other one is Tyler Hamilton, but 2 riders are down.
That was the 2001 team time trial, but Armstrong's squad has won this event in the last 2 tours, and most people think this year's supporting cast is the strongest he's ever had.
You throw in the guys we've had around, Tricky, Chechu, who I think are better than they were last year. Acevedo is at least as good as he was last year. George, look at the way he rode in the Dauphiné. Clearly he's better than he was a year ago. So, I mean, the team is... I'm not worried about this team defending the jersey. I might be a little worried about the leader getting the jersey, but no, they know how to do their job.
Well, there's the reasons by which he was faster in the individual time trial. Now the two of them are about to go at it with their teams for company.
Once you dig in, you'll find it coming out the other side. And once you dig in, you'll find you'll have yourself a good time.
There's no other sport in the world where individual success depends on group sacrifice the way it does in cycling. But the daily grind of teamwork is usually lost in a swarm of jerseys, as each squad does its chores alongside the domestic staff of 20 other teams. The team time trial, though, makes it all crystal clear. Like families of non-uplets, each dressed in identical outfits by their mother, the teams power around the course in formation, and the time is taken on the fifth man over the line. So this is where a team leader really relies on the depth of quality in his lineup. Today's team time trial course, stage 4 of the Tour, is
going to be very close indeed. 1:11:32 is the time to beat, but 1:11:15 is the time of T-Mobile. So T-Mobile, the team of Jan Ullrich, and look at that, a little clip of the hands as they go #1 slot.
Well, I'm just looking here at CSC. They look as good as Discovery Channel today. I have to say, Paul, this is going to go right down to the line. T-Mobile have done their job at every check so far.
They certainly have, and T-Mobile have got the best time with 6 kilometers to go. 20 seconds faster than Liberty Seguros and 51 seconds faster than Team Phonak.
Phonak then, who really we thought would have been a top 3 team on the day, should get in top 3 team at the moment, but they will slip away as the teams Discovery and CSC come to the line. Here they come though. Floyd Landis, his face twisted in pain, hits the line. 3rd best so far for Phonak.
They've lost their first man.
Hello, it's the rest day on the Tour after 9 pretty intense days of racing, 6 of them since we last saw you on ITV1. So before we get stuck into the action, let's remind ourselves where we left the race last Monday night. Well, CSC's David Zabriskie was in the yellow jersey, having surprised everybody with his debut Tour ride in the opening time trial. He was the only man faster than Lance Armstrong by 2 seconds, while Armstrong was over a minute up on Jan Ullrich, having humiliated his chief rival by overtaking him in the space of 19 kilometres. Stage 2 was for the sprinters, and Tom Burnham took it with time to think about his celebration for the super slow-mo. Stage 3 was a bit tighter, not for Burnham, who won it again, but behind him, where Robbie McEwen was going helmet to cheekbone with Stuart O'Grady and getting himself disqualified in the process. The sprinting was spectacular as usual, but it changed nothing at the top. Zabriskie's lead over Armstrong, the same 2 seconds.